Something absolutely huge is about to happen in cinema. Because right now, it feels like it's dying. There's superhero fatigue, franchise bloat, and streaming content churned out like factory sludge. Movies don't feel sacred anymore, they just feel disposable. But one filmmaker is refusing to play by the rules. One director still makes original, auteur-driven blockbusters on film in IMAX with practical sets and philosophical weight. And now, that director is tackling the oldest story ever told, Homer's Odyssey. And he's not doing it in a sci-fi spin-off, he's not making it a modern-day metaphor, the actual Greek epic.
One man could have made this film, and only one man can bring it to you tonight. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage, Mr. Christopher Nolan!
Christopher Nolan's Odyssey is not going to be just a movie, it's going to be a declaration of war on cinema. Because Nolan doesn't just make movies, he builds monuments. Every few years he emerges from the cinematic shadows with something that doesn't just entertain, it rewrites how movies are made. Dark Knight changed superhero films forever. Inception redefined blockbuster intelligence. Interstellar shot emotion through wormholes, and Oppenheimer made 3 hours of tortured genius and atomic guilt a billion-dollar hit. And now, that man is adapting the Odyssey. The real one, Homer, ancient Greece, gods, monsters, the journey home, and he's doing it with the full force of his cinematic power. IMAX cameras, a stacked ensemble, and a creative blank check from Universal. This isn't nostalgia, this is going to be a resurrection. To understand why this matters, you have to understand the Odyssey. It's not just a myth, it's the myth. Written over 2,500 years ago, the Odyssey is the DNA of all modern storytelling. You've seen it echo through Star Wars, The Lord of the Rings, Castaway, The Revenant, and even John Wick. Man goes to war, gets cursed, tries to return home, fights monsters, resists temptation, loses crew and endures loss, returns changed, if he returns at all. Odysseus is the first flawed hero. He's smart but prideful, brave but haunted. He cheats death, outsmarts gods, but he pays a price in blood and memory. Now imagine that myth, filtered through Nolan's obsession with time, identity, morality, and memory. That is not just a good match, that is destiny. So let's talk about the cast, because Nolan doesn't cast for clout, he casts for myth. Matt Damon is Odysseus, the weathered, cerebral war hero. Damon brings gravity, moral ambiguity, and a kind of aging regret that fits Odysseus like armor. Tom Holland is Telemachus, the son searching for his father, discovering his own strength along the way. Holland's youth and earnestness are a perfect fit. Anne Hathaway, Zendaya, Lupita Nyong'o, Charlize Theron, and Samantha Morton, possibly gods, witches, queens, or sirens, each of them capable of playing power cloaked in beauty or wisdom. Robert Pattinson, Elliot Page, John Berthal, John Leguizamo, Himesh Patel, Cosmo Jarvis, mortal or divine, they're all going to bring edge and complexity. This cast isn't just big, it's mythic. Nolan doesn't do digital fakery. If a ship crashes, he builds it. If a storm hits, he waits for the weather. That means the Odyssey will feel real. You'll feel the salt on your skin, the weight of oars, and the sweat of fear. Imagine the Cyclops scene, but done without CGI. A 30-foot animatronic beast, or the sirens, not blue-skinned fantasy creatures, but seductive, unsettling humans with unknowable intentions. The island of Circe, a place at a time, shot in golden, decaying light on location in the Mediterranean. The gods, maybe they're metaphysical forces. Maybe they're real, but filtered through Nolan's lens of fate, choice, and psychological torment. The Odyssey is a fantasy, but Nolan will root it in trauma, grit, and cinematic truth. But what makes the Odyssey timeless isn't just its structure, it's its themes. A man survives war but can't escape it. He longs for home but no longer fits into it. He's punished by the gods, by himself, and by time. That's post-war trauma, that's alienation, that's the modern male psyche. This isn't just mythology, it's the story of anyone who's ever felt like a stranger in their own home. Anyone who survived hell but can't explain what they lost. In Nolan's hands, the Odyssey becomes a film about grief, memory, loyalty, temptation, and identity. And that is exactly what cinema needs right now. Because let's be honest, cinema has shrunk. Studios don't fund vision, they fund formulas. 3-act structures, quips, VFX, heavy finales. Even fantasy has become predictable. But the Odyssey, it's messy, it meanders, and it spirals. It's poetic, brutal, spiritual, violent, and romantic. It doesn't fit the Marvel mold. It's not about saving the world, it's about finding one man's soul. And only someone like Nolan could convince a studio to fund that at scale. Because Nolan is the studio now. After Oppenheimer made $1 billion, Universal gave him a carte blanche. He chose Homer. Not Batman, not Bond, not Star Wars, Homer. That's not just a flex, that is a cinematic correction. And you will not be watching the Odyssey on your phone. You can, but that's not how Nolan wants you to see it. This will be the first film shot in full-frame IMAX. Waves so large they drown you in the sea, a score that vibrates in your chest, an ocean that isn't digital but ancient and endless. Every Nolan film is built for immersion, but this might be the most cinematic experience he's ever created. There's no slow streaming rollouts, no binge dump. This will be event cinema. Opening night, sold out theaters, silence during the credits. A movie that matters. Because this is a man who turned a black and white thriller into a career. Who made Batman about moral compromise, who made dreams feel real and time feel like a weapon. And now, as he nears the apex of his career, Nolan isn't chasing tech or IP, he's going back to the source. Why? Because the Odyssey is where all stories begin, and maybe where Nolan wants to leave his mark, not just as a director of great films, but as a filmmaker who redefined what stories could feel like. This isn't a retirement project, this is a statement. There's something poetic about Nolan, the most modern filmmaker working today, adapting the most ancient story we have. He's not doing this for nostalgia, he's doing it to remind us what storytelling is supposed to do. Make you feel lost, make you ache to go home, and make you sit in awe. The Odyssey has always been about a man who leaves his world, faces everything the universe throws at him, and crawls back to something like peace. In 2026, we'll all be Odysseus, lost in a sea of content, hoping Nolan shows us the way back to what movies once were. He gave us dreams, time, war, and memory. Now, he's giving us the origin of story itself. And when it lands, cinema is never going to be the same.